Hey guys, welcome back to the New Tennis Era podcast. My name's Anthony Hirsch. Today I'm going to be talking about the Monte Carlo final between Carlos Alcaraz and Lorenzo Musetti, where Carlos Alcaraz got his first Masters title of the year over Musetti, who was playing his very first Masters final of his life. Alcaraz has still only lost two big finals in his entire career. He plays these big moments so well, and it's an impressive win. It was a high-level match. Didn't end in the fashion that maybe Alcaraz would have wanted to win the match in, with Musetti clearly hampered and injured in the deciding set. But either way, it was a high-level final between two of the quickest players I think that we've seen on the tour in a long time. Two flashy shot makers. And yeah, I want to talk about what exactly happened in the match. Thank you guys for joining in. Don't forget to subscribe to Quality Shot Tennis, and don't forget to check out more of the New Tennis Era podcast and like the video as well. So first I want to speak on Musetti's injury. That's the first thing I want to talk about before I dive into analysis of the rest of the match. Tough. It was honestly tough for Musetti because semifinals, De Minaur beat him in a third set tiebreaker. He beat defending champion Tsitsipas earlier in the tournament. He played many long matches. So to play a three-setter, high-level, high-intensity, biggest match of his life against Alcaraz, it's not surprising that his body gave in at the end of the day. Even the first match that he played, he went down a set, won in 3 sets against Bu, won in 3 sets against Lehechka. Berrettini was his easiest quote-unquote match. He won in 2 sets. And Berrettini is not an easy player to play, even though he's very error-prone on the day. But Tsitsipas in 3 sets, De Minaur, absolute thriller, and then, yeah, against Carlos. And then you also have to mention the fact that the final was pushed back 3 hours. So the recovery time was even less than usual for Musetti. And this is not a 2-week Masters where you get more rest time in between days. This is one day after another. So it was very unsurprising to see somebody feel who's gone through a tournament that Musetti has had to feel a little bit physically hampered. It was not shocking in a way, but I don't want that to take away from the performance that Musetti had in this tournament and in general. He's gone up to now 11th in the rankings, and the clay swing has only just begun, so I expect him to crack the top 10 very soon. He's very, very good on the natural surfaces in particular, and I'm expecting, if he's at number 11 now, I mean, we could see him at number 9, 8, 7, 6 in the world, you know? I think this is something that at least seems a bit possible, and it would be a nice sight, you know, to see guys like, I've said this before, but to finally see these guys in the top 10 by the end of 2025, like Musetti, like Draper, who's now cracked the top 10, and is now up to a career high number 6 in the world. But to see all of these guys simultaneously in the top 10, Artur Fils, you know, these guys who are climbing up quickly, Jakub Mensik, who knows, that would be a good thing, because to me it feels like men's tennis has been in a little bit of a slump at the top of the rankings outside of, you know, 2 or 3 players, where we haven't seen the usual consistency from the top 10 that we've seen, you know, for most of ATP history, to be honest. But, you know, it's not a low-level period. It's just, you know, compared to most periods, it's been a little bit inconsistent from the top 10. I think that that's going to change rather quickly as we get players like now Draper, and as we get Mensik and other young, exciting talents who are yet to really find their best tennis, and are quickly improving. As they keep improving, I think that we're going to see a much more consistent top 10. But yeah, this is the second final of a Masters between 2 players born in the 2000s, after Draper and Rune played. And actually, Alcaraz and Musetti have now played a final of a big tournament before Alcaraz and Sinner, which is just a funny tidbit. Kind of not funny, kind of really annoying, because we want to see that in a final. Hopefully at Roland Garros or Wimbledon, we see that. I think at Wimbledon it might be pretty pretty likely, because I think that Sinner and Alcaraz are both very good grass court players. But yeah, I mean, those are some of the things I want to mention. But yeah, Musetti hampered at the end of the day. Not only did he play a lot of 3-set matches, actually, this was the most 3-set matches in Monte Carlo history, at least, you know, Open era. It was the final was the 29th 3-set match of the tournament. So a lot of 3-setters were played in this event. And now I want to go over the match. So first thing I want to say is that Musetti played an absolutely fantastic first set. His game was on. Very impressive. First Masters final of his career, and he was playing probably the best I've ever seen him play, I would say. Musetti came into the match with a losing record against Carlos, 1-3, but he had beaten him in a big Hamburg clay court final in the past, which was also a bit of a thriller. So he knows that he has the capability to beat Carlos, but when Carlos took it to the level that he did in the second set and how he's played most of this event, it's going to be rather hard to do that. It's good to see Carlos playing rather loose. I think his backhand is looking like it's only been getting better, which is nice, and there's a lot of things that I feel like he's doing better. For whatever reason, I feel like just his shot selection was better in this event. He's being a little bit more patient. Stuff that's good to see. And yeah, both guys are so quick. I feel in the first set, Alcaraz did not return well at all for whatever reason. He was just unable to find a read on Musetti's serve whatsoever, just returning very poorly, pretty short in the court, I would say. Musetti was returning very well, hitting some spectacular down-the-line shots for turns. Like I said, just really good play from him. Alcaraz definitely just overhitting. His forehand, he had no control on it. That's something that he got way better in the second set. He was also not making enough first serves in at all in the first set. And yeah, in the first set, 5 to 8 shot rallies, 16 for Musetti, 8 for Carlos. In the second set, it was 13 for Carlos, 7 for Musetti. This is before Musetti got injured. Musetti, it seems like, got injured at the very start of the third set. Second set was still very high quality from both, despite the one-sided scoreline. It just shows how much Alcaraz took it to a 10. I feel like that's a constant pattern with Alcaraz. Obviously, Alcaraz would be very determined to not lose in straight sets in the final of big final. He wants to win the match. He said before, finals are for not just for playing, they're for winning. But I feel like a pattern with Carlos is that he very rarely loses in straight sets, and very commonly, if he loses a first set, he will bounce back big in the second set, even if the first set was not very close on his end. It just shows a very good fighting mentality from Carlos. And often people talk about the flash with Carlos. They don't talk as much about, you know, mentality, but I think there's a lot to appreciate in Carlos's mentality, and that's one of the things I appreciate a lot from Carlos, is the way that he's able to bounce back in matches. And even if he doesn't win it at the end of the day, he almost always makes it interesting and finds a way to win that set after going behind, and is able to at least tie up the match. Alcaraz improved on the serve in the second set, going for a little bit less. Meanwhile, I feel like Musetti backed off himself a little bit, whereas in the first set he had great variety, great aggression. He was really going for returns, like I said, hitting some just down the line absolute beauties. And yeah, I feel like in the second and third sets, Alcaraz just served really well. Some of the best I've seen him serve in a while. He made 78% of first serves in the second set, and it was just smarter tennis from Alcaraz in the second set rather than the first set. In the first set, Musetti played very, very smart, and like a lot of different kind of shots and looks that he was giving Alcaraz. Like, it was very hard for Alcaraz to keep up pace with Musetti, and he just didn't feel. It felt like Musetti was in a much better rhythm than Alcaraz altogether. And yeah, Musetti was just playing much smarter than Carlos, and that's it. And definitely Alcaraz's forehand had not locked in yet. Not patient enough, too many unforced errors, and it's just like the highs and lows with Carlos. It's like a very pretty low first set, and then a very high second set, and then of course the third set Third set was basically non-existent because Musetti, right from the get-go, is very clear that he just didn't have the legs anymore whatsoever. But just now I want to talk about some key points that happened in the match. I'm not going to talk that much about set 3 with the right leg issues, but the first 2 sets were very compelling, so let me dive into that. So, 2-1 in the first set, Musetti broke after Alcaraz hits forehand unforced errors, just overplaying them and just overhitting them. And Musetti was, like I said, he was playing pretty aggressive, pretty much on the baseline a lot of the time and able to step in and doing pretty well forehand to forehand. And like I said, 5 to 8 shot rallies. It was 16 to Musetti, 8 for Carlos. And yeah, I mean, I felt like Alcaraz, honestly, his tennis IQ and the rallies or impatience was kind of showing. There were a lot of times where I felt like he could have won the rallies if he just took a little bit off, but it maybe showed the fact that he was a little bit intimidated by the level that Musetti was bringing from his side. But I will say the unforced error count after this game was 11-0. So it just shows that Musetti was playing much smarter. And even though he was playing aggressive and using variety, a lot of the shots were going in on his side. He wasn't hitting a whole lot of unforced, and like I said, that probably very much intimidated Alcaraz to feel like he has to go for it early, and maybe Alcaraz feeling a little bit of pressure, feeling a lack of confidence, whatever it was. But in set 2, one of the most notable strategic changes in the match is that Alcaraz started returning closer to the baseline, much more aggressive positioning on the return. And Alcaraz's forehand has been so big all week. I mean, he hit 5 100+ miles per hour forehands against Davidovich Fokina. I mean, he's known for a big forehand, but I'm not sure that his up end is known high end, miles per hour speed pace on the forehands is known as much as Carlos Alcaraz, or as much as a Juan Martín del Potro or Fernando Gonzalez for Carlos Alcaraz. But he's been hitting that forehand massive on the clay. 500 miles per hour plus forehands against Fokina in the semis, and then in set number 2, his forehand just got massive. I felt like he really started overpowering Musetti, and I feel like, honestly, part of it was Musetti backing off in certain moments where it's hard because Alcaraz is such a top-notch player that I didn't feel like Musetti fully backed off, but if he kept up the intensity and the kind of risk-taking that he played in the first set, then we could have seen a different result from the 6-1 set in the second set. There were certain moments where I felt like Musetti slightly allowed for Alcaraz to step in, and that was really, I felt like a big part, actually, a factor in the second set, even though it wasn't very obvious. But definitely just the differentiation between Musetti slightly backing off at certain points where in the first set he would have went for it. And like I said, in the first set he wasn't hitting unforced errors when he was doing that. It's not to say that that level would have kept up, and that might be part of the reason that he didn't do that, because he felt like he was going to hit unforced errors. But I just felt like that was something that he should have at least went for. You have to go for it, especially if he knows his physical side is draining and he's not going to be all there for the third set. I don't know if he knew that or not, but either way, it would have been good to see that from Lorenzo. Alcaraz's net shots, touch shots, fantastic. And his forehand cross court just so dialed in. Even in the first set, actually hitting some real beauties in the first set with the forehand cross court. I just felt like that was a great shot for Alcaraz this week. I don't know. He's hitting that forehand so big, even just kind of out of nowhere. Just great pace generation, kind of like Yannick. Really good stuff from Carlos. But the touch shots and the net shots were a big help for Carlos, serving and volleying at times. Just the ability to use the full court is such a useful skill at the top of the game and at every level. But if you can pull it off at the top of the game, you have such a useful dimension to your game. So it's not all about the baseline. Like, those things can really help, and I feel like they did. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have key points here, but it was a 6-1 set, pretty pretty one-sided. Going into set number 3, Musetti actually had game point in the first game, but he had a couple forehands in a row just in a really difficult kind of way, low percentage. Alcaraz hit both of them big cross court. He slides into both rather than taking multiple more steps. And Musetti is very good at moving on clay, and he's very good at sliding into the shots. But I don't know. I felt like it goes to show how much he felt like he had to do on the shots and how low percentage he felt he had to go to stay up there with Carlos. But I don't think that he really need to go that low percentage for either one, even though it does speak to the pressure that Carlos put on him. But it would have been nice to see. I think slightly the pressure and nerves got to Musetti a little bit is kind of what I'm saying. And once again, he was playing at a very high level, and it's part to do with what Carlos imposed on him. But if he kept up the same kind of confident play that he kept up in the first set, then I really think the result could have been a little bit different. Musetti then just sits in forehand just way wide to give the break, and now he's just not even taking many steps, and he's just playing really low percentage. He's already looking a little bit injured, and yeah, by 1-0, 2-0, Musetti just moving far less. And I feel like what Alcaraz did really well starting from the second set was, and continuing into the third set, at the start of the third set, is just backing himself to have some really great defense to offense without rushing in points to the winner early. That's part of the 5-8 shot rallies and the differential and who was winning those points that we start to see in the second set compared to the first set. Just really backing on himself to be able to perform from slightly more difficult position. So it's really kind of what Musetti backed off from doing, and using that variation and going big, which Alcaraz was able to really back himself and doing, where even though he wasn't really stepping in and playing from an aggressive position like Musetti did in the first set and being on the baseline, like he was able to rely on the fact that he could be in way behind the baseline and still hit a great shot to go defense to offense, or build out the points in that way. And I thought a lot of times he was backing up pretty far behind the baseline, or in the tram lines or whatever it is, but he knew that he could turn the point around. Musetti's not the guy that's, Jack Draper maybe. I feel like maybe could be a little bit more of an imposing figure. Musetti can hit big and hit great shots, but like he's not the biggest kind of hitter on the court that's always going to be putting shots away backhand and forehand. I feel like even though he was doing that pretty well this week, I feel like Alcaraz started backing himself and feeling like he didn't have to overhit in the second set. But yeah, in the middle of the second set, Alcaraz got the breaks, which is absolutely brilliant shot making. Huge shots, passing shots. So even though Musetti was injured in the third, it felt like Alcaraz really deserved the win, and his level was only ramping up. At one point, he did this forehand passing shot after doing a 360, nearly falling on the ground after a ridiculous half volley. Just those kind of shots that Alcaraz makes, that it's so exciting to see Alcaraz playing his best like he did against Arthur Fils when the moment calls for it the most. That's what truly makes Alcaraz stand out as an exciting player and somebody with GOAT potential, somebody who plays his absolute best and most flashy, exciting tennis when the moment calls for it. So and not just at random times every now and again, but consistently when he needs it the most. So I'm hoping to see that more from Carlos. And yeah, Carlos Alcaraz wins his 6th title, tying Daniil Medvedev for most Masters titles among current players behind Novak. And yeah, he leads Sinner in that way. Sinner still has 4, even though he's older than Carlos, which is insane. And yeah, Carlos Alcaraz, it's good to see him back winning big tournaments after what was an early exit to David Goffin Miami, and yeah, he's been a little bit struggling. So I hope he keeps it up, and I'm expecting, I mean, like always, to see more big titles from Alcaraz in the future. And I'm definitely not worried about Carlos, even if he has some hiccups in the next tournaments too. It's just like he did in Miami. I just think give this guy time, because we forget he's only 21. I mean, this is not the first time I've done a podcast where I talk about Alcaraz being the winner, and I did predict Alcaraz as the winner of Monte Carlo. We'll see about Madrid. He's also playing in Barcelona. A lot of the players who play Monte Carlo are playing in Barcelona, so even though it's not in 1,000, it almost looks like it is. And that's always one of the most prestigious, biggest, most historic ATP 500 tournaments, or just ATP tournaments, so that's an exciting one. And yeah, I'll be talking about that one as well. Thank you guys for tuning in to this one. Alcaraz took down Musetti in the final, high level from both, and hope to see more of the rivalry because it is always a fun one, especially on clay. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like. I will see you guys at the next one.